Hello there, this is Yogi. Today we are here with another episode of how to deepen our conversations, how to make hard conversations easy by deepening them. And today's episode is lean into our fears, be willing to be uncomfortable. Usually, when we are afraid of something, we just avoid doing it. That is a good idea when the fear is real. We are afraid of jumping from the bridge, and that's a good idea not to do it. But when the fear is in the mind, it's a good idea to lean into it. The question is now, why why do we avoid it? Why do we avoid leaning into our fears? And the reason is that it's a emotional response. We get into a limbic arrest, fear and fight or flight response of fear, and that's why we avoid fear. That is built into our limbic system, our into our constitution. And sometimes it's actually a good idea, that's why you avoid it. Afraid of jumping from the building, as I said, is a good idea, and that's why we avoid it. And when we are not aware of the difference between the two kinds of fears, we always avoid it. Or some people just always lean into that and run into problems. Now, the second thing we want to talk about is, what is the usefulness of actually leaning into our fears? There are many usefulnesses. One is, we realize we are capable of a lot more than our comfort zone would have us believe. If we lean into our fear, we also tend to lead a fuller life. We are more satisfied, we are more fulfilled. And when we are willing to lean into our fears, we also are able to experience a lot more life. For example, in my case, I was able to change careers because I was willing to lean into the fear of what would happen if I didn't have a job. What would happen if I let go of something I've been preparing for 15, 20 years throughout my academic career? And if you lean into that fear, be careful of leaning into a safe zone, but still leaning into the fear. And I've also seen, when we lean into our fears and be vulnerable, we are able to enjoy better relationships. That definitely has been the case in my own life and the lives of people I worked with. Now, let's talk about some specific practices that we can do to lean into our fears. How do we do those? First one is, feel the fear. And that's a hard one, because when we are fear, we are arrested limbically. Mindfulness really helps here, and especially a regular practice of mindfulness. When we do, we get in a practice of being mindful of our fear. We start to feel the emotions in a more vivid way. Second thing that really helps is to contemplate the worst case. What would happen really if this fear were to come true? Is it a physical fear or is it a mental fear? The distinction between those two is useful. And the third thing is to lean into a small step, a little bit into the fear. I have an example of a client who right now wanting to get into a management position, and they feel like they are fake. They have done some practices, and no, they've done some parts of the job in the current job, but they have not actually been a manager. And they feel like a fake. I don't think they will be able to, they don't think they will be able to, able to, they think they will be able to do the job. They will be able to do the job, but they feel like a fake somehow doing the interviews around that. And now we are leaning into the fear of, okay, how about we say out aloud that you feel like a fake? How does it feel like that? And be open, be vulnerable about that. And at the same time, also share our accomplishments, also share what we've done. What happens then? And we're leaning into that fear to see, explore what happens. And it has been a good journey for us to explore that together. Now, in short, we either lean into our fears or actually lean away from them if that's actually a dangerous fear. We don't want to go there. Don't be in the limbo. I wish I could. I wish I could do that. I wish I had done that. Either lean into or lean away. Be willing to be uncomfortable, lean into our fears, and live a fuller life. Thank you. That's all for now. Take care.